afternoon, everybody. Welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 358, and tonight's going to be more theme-oriented. We're not really be covering bios, although I will ask these guys just to kind of give a generic background from each of them. Lamont Glass has definitely been on before. You might want to check out that episode. That was really early. As a matter of fact, that might be like 3 years ago when I didn't know what I was doing. So that was a long time ago. But I do recall it being a good episode. I think he showed some weapons at the end and stuff. So yeah, you might want to check that out. But I think that might have been in like the first 20 or something. But check it out. So again, tonight we're going to be covering the Tri-V. They're going to kind of give their explanation, their interpretation of it. And then the event they got going on, I believe I'm not mistaken, it's 5 or 6 instructors all come together just on this one area, which I think is kind of neat. So folks go to that. I'm sure they're going to leave far more educated, thorough in the Tri-V. So without further ado, our guest tonight going to be Aaron Cole, Maynard, Ancheta, and we got Lamont Glass. And I'm going to be bringing them up now. Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Hello.
I'm good.
I want to thank you guys for coming on. And the test one went really well. Some of the feedback I got, folks were pretty excited for tonight. They thought it was a really informative test run. You know, usually we're just kind of testing out technology, but I thought it was really informative. I thought there were some great revelations that came out of that. So. But anyway, just before we get started, just a quick from each one of you, just a background for folks that maybe perhaps, don't know. So why don't we start with, Aaron, title, background, and all that.
Let's see, my background is, I've been doing lots of martial arts my whole life. I came into Pikiti Tertia back in early 2009 when Lamont and I got back together. Lamont is the one who introduced me to Pikiti Tertia, actually. Trained with him for quite a long time, and then met Tuana Mel Tortal, and then I actually moved out of the United States over to Asia, and that's where I got most of my exposure there. And been running groups over there. I was living in Korea, in Seoul for a while, and then I moved over into China to Shanghai and the nearby areas, and I did a little stint in Qatar as well, and went back to China. So, and COVID is what sent me back here.
Oh yeah, you're right. Heart of it, man. Oh my God. Yeah. Man. All right. So, Sir Lamont.
Yeah. So I've been in Pikiti since 2004. I've had other martial arts background before and after it, but yeah. So I've been in Pikiti since 2004. Kind of an eclectic person. I've done some Serrata, some Inasano blend, for other FMA systems. And then I think like any good FMA instructor or practitioner, if you see a trick you like, then that you run across the way, you've incorporated into your game. So, but Pikiti is certainly my main foundation.
All right. And last but not least, Maynard.
Oh, I don't remember a time where I wasn't doing martial arts. So it feels like I've been doing martial arts since I was born. But not formally. I just like to fight. But formally, Filipino martial arts, I started around 2003 with GT. And that's after I fought at Dog Brothers Gathering. So previous to that, I was fighting in Dog Brothers without any FMA training at all. So I watched the gathering one time, and then I said maybe I can do this. And then I watched second time within that year, because they used to have 2 gatherings a year. And then third time I went, I'm like, I think I can do this. And then I was sitting there, and Eric Knaus was there, and then I said, I told him, I think I can do this. And he looked at me and said, you want to do it? I said, yeah, I think I can do it. And they were just starting the knife fight. I'm looking at it and go, I can do this. But I've never trained in FMA at all. So no formal training in Filipino martial arts. So I said, yeah, go ahead and do it. And so when they started the stick fight, I'm like, okay, I've never worn gloves before. Maybe I held a rattan stick once in my life. We didn't have rattan when I was in the Philippines growing up, so I didn't have rattan at all. If I had rattan, I'd be so happy, but I never had one. So I think that was maybe the first or second time I actually held rattan. They gave me these hockey gloves, and they gave me a mask, and then they said, well, wear these gloves. And I'm like, okay. And then I said, I can't move my fingers. I can't even hold the stick with this thing. So I said, do you have another glove? And then they had these thin gloves, so you can pick from a pile, it's like this real the thinner gloves. And they said, are you sure? I said, yeah, I can at least hold the stick with this. And go, you're gonna get your hand hit. And they go, I don't think so. and then I'm like, yeah, I'll use this thing. And then they go, have you trained? And they go, not really. They go, you be careful. So I said, well, who am I gonna fight? I go, this guy. It was I think Greg Van Zuyen. I think he was called Junkyard Dog at the time. And then I said, okay, hey, this is my first time. Don't kill me. And then he said, yeah, okay. And I put the headgear on, the mask on. That was the first time I put a mask on. And he took a swing on my head to knock my head off. And I said, oh, this is serious. This is the real thing. And I fought, and I just did what I know how to do from when I was a kid in the Philippines, and some of my Kenjutsu training, some of my other Japanese style training. And I disarmed him, and I hit him on the kidney. I hit him in the kidney, and then I got him to kneel down. He tried to stick my stick, grapple with me. I got him to kneel down in front of me, and I was about to hit him on top of the head. And I looked at him, and I saw his eyes inside the mask, and I couldn't do it. Like you see the crowd yelling, "Oh!" I'm like, I can't hit this guy because he's got his knee on the ground. He's looking at me like I'm gonna execute him. I couldn't do it. So I got him. Like I threw away my stick, and I told him to get up. I said, "Get up. Let's do it. Let's finish his empty hands." And then I tried to take him down, and then he tried to choke me or whatever. And then I was kind of like, well, it's just 2 minutes. I'm gonna hold him down here until it's over because I don't want to hurt him. And then he went like this. He found the stick I threw down, and he's like, what is he gonna do with that? And then I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna hold him down. And then he hit me in the back. I said, well, okay, that kind of hurt. And then one more time, I go, oh, that kind of hurt. And another time, boom, with a puño, right? I go, well, okay, that's about enough of that nonsense. And I took his arm, and I gave him a little tap on the face, and then I armbarred him. And then I got up, and people were like, that was great. I'm like, what style do you do? I'm like, I don't do any style. I just made that up. I was doing this stance that I've always done in all the gatherings I ever did. I would do this stance. And that was kind of like my signature stance because they can't hit me. So I said, oh no, I learned from the province. My uncle taught me. It's like a family style. I was just making it up.
Family style. So
and now I made it up, and then I said, and they're like, I think I can fight. So I kept fighting, and I kept fighting. The next year. And then I finally get to fight. I finally got enough courage to fight the best fighter, right? Who's the best fighter? Benjamin Rittner, right? And Lamont knows him. He's badass, all right? I was like, yeah, I think I can handle Benjamin now. So I fought Benjamin Rittner, Lonely Dog, and I tried my tricks. I couldn't even hit him, and I did my thing. I disarmed him, and then we wrestled. I threw him. I took him down. We grappled. We ended up on the guard. I ended up on his. He's ended up on my guard. I was about to submit him and stop the fight. And then I'm like, wow, okay, that was fun. And I was talking to my friend. I was like, yeah, at the end of the Dog Brothers, I said, I don't know why, but my left arm hurts. And my friend said, you got hit. I said, I did what? You got hit. And my brain exploded. I'm going like, because I fought so many Dog Brothers gathering, I've never been hit. That was my thing. I was so prideful of that. I go, I don't get hit. I've never been hit, not even on my mask. So I'm like I got hit in the arm. Crap. So I better get some training. So I asked Mark. I know who's the best. The best is Top Dog. I said, who trained Top Dog? And I said, oh, this guy named Leo Guy. I said, what is that? And goes, style named Pikiti Tertia. I go, where's that? I got to find that. I got to find the person that trained the best. And they said, oh, he's in the Philippines. I'm like, oh, I guess I can't train. I'll just figure it out on my own. And then it just happened a few months later. I got to get some training. So I went to Tim Wade. I go, oh, PTKGO, they're around. I called him, and I called him. Tim Wade answered, and I said, well, it was a Monday. I called him on a Monday. I said, I gotta get some training. I called and got Tim Wade answered, and I said, well, you're luck. GT's gonna be there this Friday. He's doing a seminar at Guru Dance School. I'm like, really? So I've never paid for a seminar. I've never done a martial arts seminar in my life, ever. So I go, I'm gonna pay for the seminar. I'm gonna do it. You know, I don't have a lot of money, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this PKD Tertiary. I'm gonna learn from this old man. And then I went there. I trained with him. And then at the end of the seminar, it was 2 days, and then he gives me his card. He goes, call me. I'm like, what? Why am I gonna call you? Because you're in the Philippines, right? And then his card had a area code 310 number, which is very close to where I live. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then he just happened to be living at the time in Carson, California.
Oh, Carson, okay.
Yeah, I was in Long Beach. So that's how it began. So then I've been doing PDK since I think 2003. Yeah, so that's how that began.
Okay. Oh, wow. Just interesting. So I don't want to just, there's more to curiosity. So Lamont, as far as the gathering, if you're going to jump in one, it's got to be open. You just can't go to the gathering, right?
So you can watch the open gatherings. I mean, so it depends where they're held, but typically the open gatherings are open, so anybody can go.
So
in.
anybody can go to the open one, but the official gatherings, you can't just go to that.
So you can watch. So the tribals,
you can watch, but you mean
the tribals are often held in a park. And you know, when Maynard was doing it, might have been different locations.
Yeah, but back then it wasn't. There was no separation between open and tribal. It was just a gathering, right? And then when you became a dog brother, then I don't know when that they started doing that tribal gathering. I don't remember. But I've never gone to an actual tribal. Even though I'm an actual dog brother. But yeah. So I was just like, it was just open back then. It was just you just go.
Yeah, it was just more out of curiosity. Just
you get a lot of people who watch, just like Maynard was talking about, just watching, because if you're a martial arts aficionado, seeing people fight's an interesting event. So you get people just show up and watch.
Okay. And folks, we got folks commenting. Folks, if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from, and if you got questions, let me know. All right, so okay, so before we get into the actual event and all that, obviously, we're just talking about Tri-V. What is actually, Aaron? Is there actually like a short meaning for Tri-V? I know it's a way, a thought pattern, a thought process, a way of doing things, and all that. But I mean, does it actually mean anything? The Tri and the V?
Well, there's three parts of it. There's the mastery of the footwork, mastery of the entries, and master of the attacks. Those would be the three parts of the Tri-V.
Okay, so those are three. So
and each of the three parts has three parts. Like for example, mastery of the footwork, it's talking about long, medium range footwork. Right. Okay. And then when you go to entries, there's like long entry, medium entries, that kind of stuff. So the V is the 3 points, the three parts of each of those areas.
Okay, why don't each of you guys grab an area? So Aaron, entry.
Entries. Well, entries are going to be based on your Formula 1, which is your position. Your position. Your position dictates what you're able to do. Like in BJJ, they say what position before submission. So that, your position enables you, what enables you to do what you can do. And your position is your entry, and your entry is going to dictate which attacks you're able to do.
And off those 3 points. Okay. It was entry, footwork. I'm sorry, what was the third one? Attack.
Ways of shooting force. Attacking.
Okay. So Lamont, you want to take on attack?
Sure, right. So what are the different ways, obviously the different ways you can attack, right? And they're going to dictate, and if you look at typically, if at Pikiti, you generally at long range, you're going to close under your slashes because they're protective, and ideally finish with thrusts. Not always true, but understanding the structures of those different attacks and when you can appropriately use them, and that you have your fundamentals of those attacks that you can throw a number one relatively safely, but by position, but also in a way that you're not setting yourself up to be countered immediately. Those are just the fundamentals. It's there's nothing surprising about it, right? It's how do you best throw those techniques, and there are times when it's more safe to throw a particular attack than others. And again, it's because it's all the same, right? At what range are you for the appropriate attack? There are certain ranges that it is more appropriate to do, a weak kick. Not something you need to generally set those up. Not the greatest Largo technique in the world, though you could. But just understanding about when is the appropriate time to throw those attacks and having the appropriate fundamentals to throw those attacks safely.
Okay. And last but not least, Maynard, footwork.
Well, the main thing about Tri-B is if you draw it as a triangle, right? If you draw the formula as a triangle, the base foundation of this is the footwork, right? So how do you get the better position? How do you get the better time, right? So the bottom of this triangle is space and time. So in footwork, you're really mastering space and time, right? How do you maneuver around the space? How do you make more space for yourself or less space? How do you make more space for your opponent to go through? So they have to travel to this area where you can outmaneuver them. And there's also the relationship between you and the opponent, and the relationship between you and your surroundings. That's what you have to think about, right? So that's the footwork. So now in the footwork, we train all these variety of footwork, and for the most part, those are just for coordination. All right, so because most people are really not as coordinated. It's like I was teaching somebody last night about footwork and coordination, and they can barely move their feet. And this is a human being who been walking all their lives, they can barely move. So, but what we want to do is help a student in master the footwork understand the concept of space and time and how you move through space and time, right? So the idea. So before we can go through really the footwork and understanding this, and I was telling Aaron this earlier, that we first have to really understand what it means, what piqué de tertia means, and why is that relevant to the footwork, right? So I don't know of any other Filipino martial arts that is really named after the grand strategy of the art. So piqué de tertia is actually the strategy of the art, right, of the system. It's already named. I don't know any other Filipino system that's named after the strategy of the system, right? So piqué de tertia is to close in on the thirds. So what are those thirds? Those thirds are the position where you have advantage. You have advantage of position, right, against your opponent, right? And if you draw a triangle, I don't know if I can draw over here. I can't draw. But if you look at the triangle, and I was just telling Aaron that this is not unique to piqué de tertia. How I learned the closing in on the thirds, it's not unique to piqué de tertia, because previous to piqué de tertia, I actually learned this concept in kenjutsu, in a traditional Japanese koryu. So I learned that. That was actually one of the first lessons of my kenjutsu school. And I also learned this concept when I did bagua, shingi, and tai chi, and that's a key concept in doing bagua. And in bagua, if you don't know, there's a lot of footwork, right? And then when I did wrestling and boxing and all Muay Thai, they did exactly the same thing. They were able to close in on the thirds. And one of the instructor that I always used to visit, I never trained with him. He's an old Silat master down in Gardena, and I would just go visit and watch. And then I would see how he moved, and he moved exactly the same way. He would close in, and then he had this extreme footwork, and he would outmaneuver me. We would just play maneuver games. We just play footwork games. He liked playing footwork games with me, and we just play footwork games, and he would just outmaneuver me. I had no idea what he was doing. And then so in my further studies of how he's moving in footwork, then I understand. Okay, so you're closing in this way because you're doing two relationships. You're either closing the stance or opening the stance, and then you're tricking me into opening or closing my stance. There are only two things that you're doing in relation to your opponent. You're either going to be closed stance, meaning like if I'm right lead, you're right lead. Right? Open stance is if I'm right lead, you're left lead. Right? Like a book, right? On opposition. So mastering the footwork is exactly that. How do I get from long range and then get to that middle, the hardest part, right? Like in boxing, right? It's like, oh, there's no middle game. In Pikiti, there is a middle game. Middle game is the master's game, right? Anybody can fight Largo, right? I mean, you can close into Corto, but the master's game is the middle game. Just like, Buddhism, right? The middle way, right? If you can master that middle game without getting hit, then you figure it out. Then you really master the footwork. So because you have to cross that bridge, right? There's no Largo, then there's no Corto. It's like, you're on the other side of the bank. You still got to cross a river. You still got to go across. So how do you cross without getting hit? How do you cross over? It doesn't matter if you're going from Largo to Medio to Corto. How do you cross over without getting hit? So that's the mastery of the footwork. And then that is the fundamental, most important part of Pikiti. So it doesn't matter if you hit hard, you hit fast, you have all these combos, right? It doesn't matter how you think you can enter. Those things don't matter if you don't have good position. Absolutely does not matter, right? It doesn't matter how big your gun is, how many guns you have. If you're gonna stand in the middle of a gunfight and you're not finding a cover, you're gonna get hit eventually, right? So that's why he says, I see if I can get this note out. So you can see, you see that?
Oh yeah.
Fundamental mastery of the footwork is the one he wrote down first. So that is a super important part. So and then in Pikiti Tertia, most of the time everybody's just doing footwork patterns, M pattern, L pattern, N pattern, B pattern, diamond pattern, but it's not applied in relation to another person. Like you don't really do it tactically. They don't show you how to close in on that third, right, without getting hit when you got to cross to the middle, right? And if somebody says, well, there's no middle in Pikiti, there's no medio, that's absolutely nonsense, because it's Pikiti, Tertia, there's always going to be threes. There's never going to be just two. There's always going to be threes, right? So the medio, the middle game in Pikiti Tertia is the master's game. If you want to get if we want to get the level of mastering Pikiti, really master Pikiti Tertia, you better have a good middle game, right? It's like being in that pocket. I'm in that pocket and you can't hit me. I don't care what you do. I'm in that pocket and you can't hit me, right? I can go inside or outside of you and you still can't hit me, right? And that's like the lifetime learning part of this whole art, right? So to me, that's like the most fundamental thing of footwork. So mastering that footwork is finding a way to understand how to play the middle game.
All right, well said.
Hey, Maynard, do you want to describe? You mentioned the thirds, and I think you're going to skip by that idea of what are the thirds.
Okay. So the thirds. Okay, this is how I'm going to do it. Okay, so this is how I first learned it in Kenjutsu. Okay, so the thirds is this, right? So if it's actually fours, it's not really thirds. It's actually fours. Okay, so that's why they call closed quarters actually closed thirds. But the only three triangles available are three triangles are available to you at any given time. Okay, so if I'm standing like this, so if I put my hand in front of me like this, the thirds are this: 1, 2, 3. The fourth one is behind me. Okay, so if you range to my right and then come in to my right side, to this thirds, right, to this outside thirds, you have available to you in one move my back, my center, right, and this side. On this side, on this part of the triangle, you have to make an extra move to get to this part. Maynard, so when you close in, anytime you close in, if you close in right into the center of me, you have available the center, my left, and my right. You can't get the back yet, it's too far. This takes an extra move, right? So what you want to do is you want to close in on that position. You want to put yourself where, if you're over here, this hand now is going to be hard. It's out of play. While you can still play with both hands. right? You want to make my weapons to be out of play. If you close in over here, then I overshoot you and you're inside the game. So this is safe for you, right? This is when you get into corto, right? So now I can try to hit you, but you have the center of control. And then from there, you can always go out and you go this way again. So once you're on the outside again, you can take my back again. So that's what you're closing in. So the goal of really Piquete Tertia is to close in on those positions where you have advantage, right? Where you can use all your force, 100% of your force, while your opponent can only use half, right? And then you get to the back, maybe they can only use a quarter, right? So that's what you want to do. So if there was a question from Danny Terrell, I think, how do you fight a bigger, stronger opponent? You got to get better position. Bigger, stronger, faster. Where do I go? I go to the position where I can use 100% of my power, my energy, my force, while you can only use half. That's what I want to do, right? I want to be able to flank you so you can't turn. I want to be able to put my face on your, I want to put my, if I'm close quarters on you, I want to put my head on your jaw so you can't turn your head. If you can't turn your head, you can't turn your body. It'll be hard because the head follows the body, right? So that's really like the strategy, the main strategy of Piquete Tertia. It's like you close in on the thirds using Kali, right? And like, but then you go into what's Kali and all this stuff. So that's what you're using, the concept of Kali to close in on the thirds. So Kali is not a martial art from the ancient land. It's not like that. It's a concept, right? It's a concept that's similar to the concept of yin and yang. There are only two things, right? Broken or fluid. GT is always talking about that, right? Thrust or slash, right? There's always a two opposite. So you're closing in on the thirds using these two opposites, right? So when he was teaching me a long time ago, and he was like, he was relating to me how it was in the old days, and he said how you would train. You know, it's like, oh yeah, you would go up to the mountains and you would train with the old man in the forest, and then that's how, you know. And then I go, what would he do? It's like, well, you know, sometimes he'd make you gather leaves. I'm like, I'm like, what? So, you know, like, first make you gather the leaves, and he makes you move your hand this way. And then what? Then he'll make you separate the leaves and make your hand move your hand this way. And then what? And then he'll make you like gather them and separate them like this. So there's two energies that's going on. It's this motion and this motion, and a combination of both. Right? And if you're looking at what you're doing when you're fighting, you're only doing those things. You're either doing this or you're doing this, or a combination of both. Right? Any kind of combination. So if you look at Tagalog and you look at Tagalog people in Tagalog language, right? So I really didn't know what Kali means when I first learned it. Oh, Kali, oh, it's martial art of the Philippines. Cool. We have our own martial art. And then the actual word, because like, I am not familiar with that word. I'm like, but I actually use it all my life. But in Tagalog, I don't say Kali, right? We say kalkal. What is kalkal? Kalkal is you go to your closet or the dog digging. That's kalkal. If you go like, hey, if your mom goes like, hey, what are you doing in your closet? Well, I'm looking for the shirt I lost. Let's go. Anong kinakalkal mo dyan? What are you kalkaling? This is kalkal. I'm looking for something. That's actually kalkali. And then actually, when my dad passed away, I think 2008, 2009, I went back to the province where, you know, my family's from. And then I didn't know that my great grandfather was a famous armisador. He was like famous. He was like so famous. He became the mayor of the town. So you can look him up. His name is Fernando Trinidad, mayor of Alcala in Cagayan province. And he had a big picture on the city hall. But he was like, my uncle saw me doing this early in the morning, and he thought, and my uncle was a famous lawyer in the Cagayan province. And he had his own office and all that stuff. And he saw me early morning practicing around like 4:30, something like that. And he told my mom, he got scared when he saw me in the garden because he thought he saw the ghost of his grandfather, my great grandfather. I thought I saw a ghost. It's like, it was your son. He looked exactly like my grandfather. He was moving just like that. And then he started telling me the story. And then one of the famous sayings my great grandfather was a police officer before, and then he became like the chief of police, and he was famous for going in alone in a fight, and his famous saying was "Ikali ka itibibiyag." It's like, I'll bury you dead or alive. It's like, make your choice. You get on the ground, or I put you underground. I was, I was like, that really worked? I said, and then my uncle doesn't have to lie. My uncle is like a super wealthy lawyer, right? It's like he's telling me this story. I was like, no, that's the true thing. When I was a kid, like he would come in like the Lone Ranger, and like guys armed with weapons, and he'd come in and go, was he armed? He doesn't have to come armed. They just tell him like, you either sit on the ground or I put you underground. And then they would like, what would they do? They put their weapons down. They wouldn't fight him. I go, what? How come I never knew about this? And then I go like, I go, what was the name? Was there? I go, no. I go, what's the name of the art? He had no name. He had no name. I was like, oh, what? But he said, it's what you would call today martial arts or like martial systems. And you have to understand that my uncle, this guy is brilliant. He's like one of the smartest lawyers in that area. And I come from a family of lawyers, and he's one of the top guys, right? So he had no reason to like make up stories for me, right? So yeah, so Ikali is like, I'm gonna bury you. I'm gonna freaking bury you. So those are fighting words. Those are fighting words in the north. So if I say Ikali ka, I'm gonna bury you. That's what it means, right? And I go, it's like, but nobody says that anymore because it's kind of like too harsh. And then when I went back again, I think it was before Duterte was about to become president, and I have two sides of the family. One's very militant and one's very businesslike, right? The militant side comes in, and there's an old man about 70 years old. He said something like, I'm like, what the fuck? He goes, they're gonna bury all the drug dealers. That's what they were saying. They were using, the old man was the one using that word. Ikali. We're gonna bury them. Ikali. So Ikali, that's why I was laughing with Apollo Ladra. He was like, you stole my Ikali. Now you call it Ikali. It's supposed to be Ikali. So Ikali, Ikali it means like, I'm gonna bury you. Right? So it's like to dig. So basically the hand motion is this. So if you watch GT, he'd go like this all the time, right? He'd go like this and he'd go like that. And when he does all his movements, he's doing this, right? It's like labo, right? Hubad lubad, he's doing all this stuff. When we're grappling, we're doing this. So that's really what Ikali is. So you close in on the thirds using Kali, using the concept of these, either forehand or backhand. Maybe if you have double stick, like Lamont's going to teach, maybe you're doing both, right? One is forehand, one is backhand. That's the whole idea.
All right. Nice. All right. So let's just get into, guys, kind of what we touched on yesterday. So Aaron, your interpretation overall on the formula / approach.
Well, I came into Piketty Tertia under Lamont Glass here, so I came in under the Tri-V formula as given to him by Tuhan Jared Uhongi originally. So that was the new way Grand Tuhan was teaching away from the Dose Methodos. So I came into it under that, and later came into other parts of the system from Tuhan Romel Tortal, Tuhan Leslie Buck, Tuhan Nonoy Gurucho, and others. So I feel that I had the operating system. I didn't quite know what it was. It worked, but then I just started to fill it more and more and more. And this is one of the reasons why I'm having this event here, is like, it's a learning event. We can all share our experiences and learn more, because it seems like the system is so big and everybody seems to have a piece, but not the whole thing.
Okay. And same question for you, Lamont.
So when I first started learning Tri-V, I did not get the explanation that Maynard just gave, but about how it was organized that way. And it was much more a curriculum. And then, conceptually, again, a lot of the Tri-V, to me, the way it was originally taught, was designed as a relatively quick access system to make you functional fast. You're not spending a lot of time on theory. a lot of theory is built for the longer term martial arts nerds, who are you may be taught it and not know why you're getting taught it, right? Just do this, right? We're not talking about, outflanking theory right now, but this is how I want you to do this and enter. Especially if you have short periods of time to train people. And so I think a lot of people who learned, like I said, including myself, never got this kind of theory behind it. And it's not new theory. This is just good fighting technique. But so I was taught it as a curriculum, and so and you regularly get questions like, what is Tri-V? What is Tri-V? And struggled to answer it. And early on, the conceptual approach, the first sort of conceptual answer, and that it was actually Aaron and I were sitting with Tuan Mel Tertal, and it was like, okay, what is this? And we were at a Chinese restaurant. He flipped over the placemat and he drew a picture of all the different subsystems on the outside, and basically said this is sort of how they connect in the middle. And that's a very conceptual answer. Like, you may not have training in double stick so your Tri-V can include the concepts in that subsystem, right? That are there. But maybe you picked it up out of some of the other training that you had. Most people, and if you look at early Tri-V curriculum, you weren't learning double stick, right? Typically you're learning single stick and single knife because you're trying to get functional fast. So we're not worrying about the other hand very much. Maybe there's some trapping going on with that other hand, but for the most part, you've got, if you're lucky, 6 months to train. We're just going to get the one hand good, right? So there's going to be certain techniques and applications that are going to focus on the one primary hand. And so again, but that resulted in people who didn't have the conceptual background behind that. And so from Tuan Mel, I got this idea behind it. But that's still a very conceptual model, right? That to me didn't answer, okay, how do you, but what Maynard described is actually very different, right? That's within this larger conceptual model is this much more functional footwork attacks, entries, and appropriate ranges, and that to me becomes really, really important. I mean, obviously you can't be a fighter without understanding those, but it provides a framework around which you can approach the art and be, okay, so these are safe entries under this position. When Maynard was talking about whether, you're open or closed on your footwork, is like, that's like half of the thing that I'm going to be talking about with double stick is what's your relationship in your footwork, because it's going to give you what technique are you going to use, what entry line are you going to use, right? We're over here, that guy's open, I want to crash on his inside, I'm going to change up my footwork here, I'm going to change my foot position, and then I'm going to crash in through that line because I can stack up his line to me and I can counter. So that to me, I mean, I learned some of that through, again, other arts, but us being able to provide this is like, okay, this makes sense. Like now there's a technical way that you can approach this. Like, it's like, okay, what's your position? Do you understand how to analyze and enter? And again, this is for the longer term martial artist who's, going more, breaking it down, right? Again, early Tri-V was trying to make fighters fast, and you shouldn't be all theory minded at that point, right? And then later, as you build as a martial artist, you need to pick up that theory behind it.
Was it developed fast because what he was doing with the Marines in the Philippines? Did it have anything to do with it, or no?
I mean, it came out at the same time. Like when he, I mean, and I think I've heard him say that, that he had to change up the model about how he was teaching, because it wasn't civilian martial artists. It was people who he had to turn around and send into the jungle in a short term. So he changed up his model. That said, it's a lot of this stuff is, I mean, again, it's an approach. It's he just changed up how he initially, like, you look at what the early guys did, they learned Sagitas often, from the very beginning. And then you looked at what, if there's footage of when Tuan Tim and GT were teaching, you watch them go and they're doing, Cicoteros or these 1-4-2 combinations, on tires and everything else like that, that clearly looks different, right? Like that was a different model and approach. So you can see that something changed when, at that time period, or, perhaps before, but it crystallized, I think, in that time when he was teaching the military.
Yeah. There seems to be, that was definitely, because I just remember some of them I was exposed to way back when Ron Kozakowski was training with Guy Hagen going over there. It was right at the time when he was trained in the military, so it seemed like there was some parallel there in that. But what I'm going to say here, Maynard, anything you want to add to what they discussed?
Well, the very first time I learned the combination that everybody calls as tri-V striking, right, was the first time that GT actually started staying with me in Long Beach, and he didn't call it tri-V. He didn't call it tri-V striking pattern or whatever. He didn't have his name for it. He called it third eye striking. That's what he called it. That was the original name he called that tri-V striking pattern that we all know. 1-4 circular, right? He called it the third eye striking pattern. And to my surprise, I was already familiar with that. I've already been using that in Dog Brothers. I've been doing that exact pattern in, I think, 2 years of Dog Brothers. And I did not need anything else other than that. I actually never trained stick at all the whole year. And I would spend about 30 minutes the Friday or whatever, the weekday before a Dog Brothers gathering. I would train 30 minutes. I would just swing sticks for 30 minutes. And then I'd go fight, right? I would only use these things. I learned that from Tai Chi Chuan. I learned it as a Tai Chi Chuan. It's like one of the secrets of Tai Chi Chuan. So that was the only time I took a private lesson in Tai Chi Chuan with my teacher. I don't really do Tai Chi Chuan. I never learned a full curriculum, but that's the part I wanted to learn. It's called the 10,000 hits. It's just called 10,000 hits. I can hit you 10,000 ways with just this movement, right? And I would go, I'm gonna use 10,000 hits. 10,000 hits. How can they stop it? I can do 10,000 ways. So I would fight Dog Brothers, and I would just use that. I would use that all the time. There's pictures of me when I'm doing the 4 and I'm kicking somebody. I just make it up.
Is that 1-4?
1-4. It's 1-4, right? So yeah. So then when the GT showed it to me, I'm going like, what? It's the same thing. Then we did it with Sibat. We did it with sticks. We did double sticks. I'm going like, and then he would do this with his hip, right? Everybody does this with his hip, right? And when I go, that's exactly what it was supposed to be in Tai Chi, because when you do it with Tai Chi, your hip goes this way, right? It goes reverse, right? I'm like, that's why I always say that Pikiti is an internal Filipino martial art, right? Because I don't see any other Filipino martial art that has the same elements from Bagua, Xingyi, or Tai Chi, right? It's like Pikiti Tertia is like Bagua, Xingyi, and Tai Chi into one, but with weapons. Right? That's I think that's why I love it. That's why I love it. That's why I'm into like Pikiti, because I'm going like, well, I studied Tai Chi, Xingyi, Bagua. Right? I'm pretty good with Bagua and Xingyi. I can use Tai Chi functionally, right? But Pikiti is really like 3 internal martial arts in one, but now you have weapons. I used to do seminars up north in Seattle, and I think Lamont and Aaron was like one of my first 2 attendees, right? And it's like my teacher Tim Carmel used to also go there and teach their internal martial arts seminars, right? And I think one of the guys said, who was attending, and said, the host was saying like, what do you think of Maynard? And he said, he's exactly like Tim, but with weapons. So it's internal martial art, but with weapons. So if you really look at, like, even if you look at the knife tapping moves and the knife movements, I go like, that's all Bagua. So when GT showed me all the knife tapping moves, the inside breaking breakout with the hands, I'm going like, this all about what? Right? It's all similar to me. So that move, that one, I mean, if I want to teach somebody, I say, I'm going to teach you Tri-V and I'm going to teach you how to fight with it. I'm going to teach you this. With this, you can fight most people if you have enough guts, right? If you want to believe that this will work, if you actually believe that, don't doubt it. If you doubt it, you're not going to use it. But if you go in there and say, I'm only going to use this, and I'm going to tell you right now that it's going to work. It's going to work just as GT showed it, because I used it before that, before even that. And here's the funny part, Dean. So I've been fighting with this Tri-V idea, you know, about two years or so, right? And then I go, now I learned Pikiti Tertia. Now I took like a couple of years off because I'm gonna learn the system. Now I'm gonna go fight again. So I go back and fight another gathering, right? After having learned some material, right? I learned the dosimeters stuff. Tim Wade was also one of my teachers. I learned from Tim and all this stuff. And I learned from GT. And I go, now I'm gonna go fight Dog Brothers again. I have more material. It's like, it's more than this. I'm like, I have more than this now. So I go fight, and I did worse.
Oh, okay.
I did worse, right? And I'm going like, in my head, I'm going like, oh, what? How could I do worse when I have more material? Right? And that's also the beginning of me started questioning how I was taught Dose Metodos and how I was being taught the other stuff. And then I would just pick GT's brain. And when GT would stay with me, I would never ask him, never, ever, ever ask him to teach me anything. Never. He would stay with me for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. I would never ask him to teach me anything. I would never say, GT, can you show me? No, I would never ask that. I would only pick his brain and how his mind works. Right? I'm just gonna see how this man thinks. And that's the most important part, right? So that Tri-V formula that everybody does, absolutely, if you want to be just functional, I can show you how to fight with that. Add some understanding of footwork and positioning. It's hard to beat you. I mean, you can. I'll tell you right now, I can take a brand beginner and have him fight anybody who's been training 10 years, just with those movements. I think it's that powerful of a set, and I think that's why GT started teaching it first.
Interesting.
They do that double six. I fought double six. Like the last real Dog Brothers I fought was double six with Mauricio, I think Sanchez from Mexico. And he got like this Mongo six. Nobody wanted to fight him because he had this Mongo six, right? And that's all I did. I just did that Tri-V. I think maybe Lamont might teach you double, right? That's all I did. There's nothing else. I didn't do anything special, right? That's I'm already functional. I can fight. So because now I can already fight. I'm already functional. I fought guys before who actually try to hit your head, right? Like really hard. So then I can go. That's why I'm saying, like, once you become functional and once you can fight and confident that you can fight, then you can go like, yeah, I can actually start really researching this art, the abecedario, the 12 metodos, right? Daku Puño, what it really means. Because now I can dive deep into like the meaning of all this other stuff, because I don't have to worry about like, can I fight or can I use this? No, I already can do that. Let me just like understand the rest of this stuff. And that's what I think, for me, what the Tri-V does. Now, the Tri-V now, even though it gives you that entry point to being able to be functional and being able to fight, at the same time, when you get to the operability portion of it, it also helps you develop the more advanced portion, right? You can now start to put together the elements of the 12 metodos, right? In a chess game, in like a human chess game with weapons. And that's how Aaron and I were discussing that, right? It's like now you're playing a high-speed human chess game with weapons, right? Boxing is a high-speed human chess game, right? But with fists. It's harder with weapons. It's harder with a real sword because you cannot make a mistake. You can roll a punch in boxing. You can take a kick in Muay Thai, but you cannot take a cut with a sword.
No.
So now you get to that operability because you can fight already. Like forget that, you can already fight. Let's figure out how to get really better at this, and then I think we need to talk about Juego Tirada and Juego Todo, because that's a big portion of the actual Tri-V method.
Okay. So, Aaron, how much? I know you tried. How much have you gone into the older curriculum, and if so, has it helped you better understand Tri-V?
Yeah, absolutely. To write on what Maynard was just saying, like those are the Tri-V attack patterns, but I later learned them as something called Juego Torada, Juego Todo, and they're patterns at first, right? So the first one is that 1-4 circular or reverse 2, 3-4 reverse 2, 1-2 reverse 2, and those are the elements of it. Juego Torada meaning game of targeting. Once you learn the patterns, it's supposed to be a game, like playing chess, using those tools to target a specific area. So beyond that, yeah, I learned a lot of other material. Most of my material comes from Tuhan Meltertal, mixed with other people, and that would be mixed methodos and other things as well. But the system is giant. I mean, the system is so big. It's well, we all work for a living, and you know, it takes a lot of effort to like really hone in all of those tools. So at a point, it's better to just go, look, I'm going to get really good at these things, but then I'm going to explore these other things and keep exploring. And that's kind of where I'm at, is like have your foundation and just keep on building, adding on to your foundation, rather than just kind of, oh, I'll play a little bit with this, I'll play a little bit with that, but I'm not really good at any of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. I know. It seems vast.
It is.
Sure.
It's absolutely vast.
It is vast and not vast. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's only 12 methods. All right, there's only 12 methods. Okay.
But to go off
6 strategies.
Not everybody's in agreement of what those methods are, because go look at different tools.
That's the next symposium.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the next episode.
That's the next symposium. I'm going to present, perspectives on that one too. That could be the next one. What is it? Because they're all different, right? They're all different. Everybody's got like a different set, and they're all like organized differently, right? And so that's the next one.
So, Lamont, what's same thing with you? I mean, like are you making a conscious effort, or depending the time you have, to further research the older stuff and then see what fits better, or your better understanding for Tri-V?
Yeah, actually, during COVID, I was lucky enough to, Tuan Jack was kind of doing a interdisciplinary sort of work group, and we were, and so I was able to watch him a little bit. I mean, I've done it through other people as well, very early on. Actually, there's, again, under Jared, we first started with 64 attacks. We started with Sagitas, and then we were told, you're now a Tri-V group, and so, and at one point, Jared was trying to learn some more of the Sagitas, fleshing out his understanding of the system. And GT told him, was like, that's old technology. You don't need that. But despite that, there was still an interest about, further pursuing, the Sagita. So I've over the years, I've tried to chase those out, try to understand what some of those techniques are, and get the older pieces, because I do want to see how, Daku Pipunyo isn't taught typically in the Tri-V system. It's just, the overall motion's been replaced with the Sabayan motions. But it's still, a platform around you. There's some really important stuff in there. And different instructors have different takes on it, right? Different people teach even sort of the purpose of that particular platform differently. So that's a little weird. But again, each of those platforms are essentially little lesson plans about, this is what I'm trying to teach you, right? If you have another lesson plan that just looks a little different, who cares what the name is, right? But and working with Tuan Jack, just really relatively briefly, I was like, oh, okay, well that's an interesting thing off of Sagita set 2. Some of them are like, yeah, I don't really see that happening. But others are like, okay, that one I can totally see that. Like, I can try to, let me play with that. So, I'm not trying to retain, like, I do not have, Sagita's set 3 of whatever. But in the study of it, I'm like, oh, that looks really interesting. Let me grab that and try to play with that, and then bring that overall, into, my game, and hopefully see if I can work that into my understanding, and and if I can't, I can't. But one of the interesting things about different stuff, and that as you get better, and your understanding of timing gets better, and recognition about where these things happen, your ability to pull some of the stuff off is different, right? I can pull off stuff now that I couldn't 5 years ago. Because I'm like, oh, okay, well, I recognize that now. This is how I can take advantage of it, or I couldn't have done that 5 years ago. So stuff that's, again, low percentage to a year 3 student might be medium percentage to someone who's been in the system for 10 years, right? So your availability of technique depends on your understanding of, and recognition of how things are going on in the fight. So I've explored it. I don't have any intention of sort of getting everything, but I'm still trying to pull this stuff in. It's one of the reasons why I try to get with some people who got older chunks of the system, because I do want to see it. I do want to and get the feel of it. Watching Tuhan Phil Galinas do his stuff, and I just pictured his name right there. Is really interesting. Like watching him play around Tuan Loki, these other guys who have the older dosage systems, like watching these lesson plans come from those guys, that's really interesting. And those guys in particular, because they are fighters, like they have both this book knowledge, which is, and then you can see how it comes out and turns into a fighter's knowledge. So it has application beyond the form. So that's been really interesting to me. And so again, I'm trying to expand my knowledge of that more complete system, even if I'm not trying to memorize the whole system or memorize that particular lesson plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, here, this will be for all of you. A new student coming in and all that, what would you advise them in relation? They're coming in, they're getting the Tri-V. What would you advise them as far as further their understanding, so not to kind of go through what maybe some of the, I don't want to say misconceptions, but misunderstandings or vague? What would you recommend to them? So Aaron, what would you tell them?
Well, it depends on the student, to be quite honest, and where we're going. Are we talking, which weapon category are we talking here?
So an entry student, let's say single weapon, single stick.
Single stick. Obviously the Juego Torada, the Tri-V attack patterns, typically most everybody modern days seems to come into Pikiti Tertia with the Cinco Terros, the 5 attacks. That's always a good one, because that kind of brings in your payongs and things like that. I think payong is a very good basic thing to have once you have that. Once you have your Tri-V attacks, and then after that, 4 walls, ways to stop the Tri-V. Yeah. And that's where you start to bring in those methods, because the methods, pieces of the methods should work in the game. And that's kind of what draws out style after a while. Once a person's been exposed to a lot of tools, they've gone into the laboratory, been able to play with their tools, then that, I might favor different tools than Lamont, and we learn the same tools. Same with Maynard, we learn the same things, but I'm going to gravitate toward one set of things, maybe because of my size, because of my preference. Maybe I work it more. Maybe he works something else more. Maybe he's better at this game. So you're going to work to your strengths, and I think that's one of the nice things about Pikiti Tertia is there's so much there that you can, over a long period of time, make it work for you.
Okay. Maynard, same question.
New student, I will teach him the circle strike. That's it. And then if they want to learn more than that, then we can keep going, and then I'll start to introduce them to the doce métodos, concepts of the doce métodos, to enhance what that circle can do. Because what I found out over the years is that a good circle beats most everybody already. Circle strike. Yeah, that's what I would teach them first, and then they could see it that I'm already protected. You throw one, I circle. You throw a two, I circle. You throw a three, I circle. You throw a four, I circle, and I go broken circle. It's so easy. It doesn't like that's why GT would always say the don't learn in January and fight them in December. It's like, oh, we can fight now, right? A new student, they will already see that it works right away. I don't. It's like, oh, you mean I don't have to spend a year, 2 years to be able to learn how to fight? And it's like, no, I can show you how to do this circle right now. Next week you can fight somebody. And I said, and then people are always incredulous, like, well, I don't understand. How could that be? Like, I'm just a beginner. We can bring anybody in. They go, I don't care. Find somebody from a different style. It doesn't matter to me. We'll do the circle, and then you'll see, right? It does, because it doesn't matter, right? And especially when you understand the footwork, when you understand the basic understanding that footwork, where you go open or close, right? Because most people, they lose their heads. They don't even know what their feet are doing. Right? Everybody's so concentrated on the top and what the hands are doing. And so I don't worry about guys spinning their sticks and doing all this crazy stuff. I don't do that. You know, it's like when I stand and when we fight, I don't do 5 attacks. I stand like this. I move around like this. I don't move my hands. I mean, I might just for fun of it, you know, but I never do, because in reality, you know, when you're really going at it or training with swords, right? Like heavy, like real swords, right? So my students and I train with cold steel, dulled cold steel barongs, right? It's pretty heavy. You can't be doing all that 5 attacks. You can't be like spinning the sword in front of the guy. That's just, to me, that's just silly. It's like boxing somebody. You're in the ring and doing all this stuff, and you're out of range, right? And you're like this until you need to use it, right? So for me, I would teach them, we'll use this circle, because the circle can defend you. No matter what they throw, they'll throw one, the circle can defend you. At the most, you might break even. You might, you know, your glove might get hit a little bit, right? At the most, right? But for the most part, if you do the circle, you're pretty defended. And I came to that conclusion, and I think Roberto made a comment earlier about seeing me doing this, something like this back in 2010 with Tim Wade, right? And a little bit of background history about me is I had a really bad disc herniation back in 2009, where I thought I was going to be basically crippled or get a really bad major surgery. So when I went to Tim's training in Texas, 6 months after avoiding a surgery, I couldn't really move. I couldn't do all that stuff. I couldn't do all this like footwork pattern and they're all doing. So there's no way. I'm limited. I'm limited. All I can do is a circle. And to my surprise, I'm like, they can't touch me with just the circle. You can do all the 5 attacks that you want all day long. You can do payong, go ahead, do payong. It didn't even matter. It didn't matter. I was like, because I was just, and there's a big story behind all this stuff too. But you know, we can talk about that later. But I would teach somebody to circle. That's why I would circle. Yeah.
Renee wants to know, will Tri-V help me against vampire attacks?
Of course.
Always. What are you talking about? Of course.
With a wooden stake.
That guy, man, that guy kills me. That guy cracks me up. Thank you.
That's like, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't.
Oh, you know what though? I did miss a question here, and shame on me. Okay, here's the question. I tell you what, Lamont, you want to take here? Okay, this is from Andy. So mastery of the attacks is actually getting to a position, footwork, to allow you to use 100% of your energy, ideally, whether it's a direct or indirect.
I would say it's mastery of the footwork that gives you the position, right? And then, because the footwork is your entry. Well, the footwork is what gets you in the appropriate position. And then your attacks then combine with that, if that makes sense.
Okay. Let me add to this, right? Mastery of attack is being able to flow from one attack to the next without a break, without stopping, flowing right into the next attack. So Aaron's doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now, right? So I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm a brown belt. I was supposed to get my black belt, but so part of a game that I know if somebody's a blue belt, a purple belt, or a brown belt, or a black belt level, when I'm watching somebody do Jiu-Jitsu, you can see a beginner white belt. I can see a beginner white belt about to be a blue belt when they attack and then they get foiled or they get stopped in that attack. They move to the next attack. There's no stopping. There's no, well, let me reset and attack again. That's a white belt. A white belt will reset and figure out another attack. A blue belt level can attack, you stop that attack, he goes to the next attack. That's mastery of the attack. Okay? A purple belt gets stopped, a purple belt goes in with 2 attacks. He's threatening you with 2 attacks coming in, and you got to figure out which one you're gonna defend. You defend one, you get hit with the other, you defend the other, and then he has 2 more attacks. Mastery of the attacks is being able to flow from one attack to the next without stopping, with the fastest transition possible. You transition from one attack to the next attack without skipping a beat. That's really what he's talking about in mastery of the attacks. Right? Okay. I can go from one attack to the next. I'm not gonna skip a beat. I'm gonna throw you a jab, you follow my jab, I'm gonna throw you a cross, you follow that, and I'm gonna go to the next attack. I'm not going to reset. I'm not gonna back up and reset the jab again. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna flow from one attack to the next attack. That's the mastery. That's the real mastery of the attacks. And you can tell if somebody hasn't mastered their attacks because they back up and they reset. When I see somebody back up and reset, I know they haven't began to master their attacks. If I see somebody who attacks, then gets stopped, and then has another attack right away, I know that person's starting to master the attacks. If somebody comes in, if that person attacks and he gets spoiled and then he attacks, but then he has double attacks coming in at the same time, you don't even know which one you're gonna stop. You're gonna take a hit. That's a person who really mastered the attacks. Right? That's really the mastery of the attacks. Right? It's not just like combining strikes and different. No, it's not stopping, having really fast transition from one attack to the next without skipping a beat. That's mastery of the attacks.
Yeah.
You can demonstrate it in every martial art there is. You go watch a nice sumo wrestling, right? Watch a nice sumo, boom, they clash, boom. The guy does the technique. He gets stopped. Boom, he goes to the next technique. He doesn't skip a beat. They don't go back up and reset it. No, they go to the next move.
Yeah, Division I wrestler. You know what I mean?
Right. You go wrestling. Boom, you attack. Oh, a single leg. Boom, he gets stopped. Boom, he goes right to double leg. Oh, he gets stopped. He go high crotch right away. There's no stopping. All right. Yeah. Then you know that guy knows. Otherwise, he goes like, oh, I can't get the single leg. Oh no, let me go back up and then try again for the single leg. No, that's the beginner, right? He hasn't mastered the attacks yet.
Why give you a
let me see here. Okay. Okay. We're gonna get into your guys' event. So how did how did this come about? Who came up with the idea and so forth?
I came up with the idea. I've been here in Las Vegas. This is my 2nd year living here, and I wanted to have an event to just kind of bring together some people that I've known a really long time who have a lot to offer. My whole idea here is I didn't want it to be organizational at all. I wanted no Tuhans. I wanted no titles. I wanted people who were skilled, good people in the art, who wanted to share their different perspectives, because, I mean, the system is big. There's a lot of knowledgeable people and a lot of experience to gather. So I chose Maynard and Lamont because, well, they're some of the first 2 people I actually ever got to train Pikiti Tertia with. And I also grabbed Jeanette Ladoris. I'm good friends with her. She's got different exposure. She's got a lot of time with Tuhan Leslie Buck, Grant Tuhan Melter Tal, and other people. And then also Angola and his wife Jenna. They have a lot of different experience. They've trained under Tuhan AK. I have experience with GT. They have their own thing as well. So it evolved into being about the Tri-V later on. The whole idea at first was like, hey, we come from different backgrounds, have different exposures. Let's just share what we have. And then over our discussions, it became like, well, what's Tri-V? So that's kind of guided where we're going with it. It's definitely evolved.
I think it's a great idea that you guys came up with that. Clear the air and give people better understanding that maybe or don't. But it sounds like maybe by via this episode, if they go to your event, hopefully they will. So what do you? So let's go, Lamont. So, Lamont, what are your personal and goals for this event? Personal and just overall goals that you hope to achieve through this event.
So personal for me is actually a lot of times when you go to a seminar, especially if you're one of the instructors, you're the one instructing. You spend the whole week instructing, right? One of the really cool things on this particular setup is I get to learn. I'm going to be as much a student as an instructor on this one. I get to see what everybody else is doing. I get to see their approaches. And again, originally, I think we were talking about calling this like Pikiti perspectives or something like that. That again, I want to see how other people look at the art and use the different approaches, even though on material that theoretically I'm familiar with. Because just even someone's take on that can be different just off of their own experiences. And there's a lot of guys with lots of good experience. Everybody on that has good experiences and instructors here. So that's to me, like I get to be as much a student as anything. I do think using this Tri-V framework around this idea about trying to be a little bit more explanatory about it has given us a theme to this where that it's like, okay, illustrate again and again and again, where we can reiterate where these different pieces are over time, as we're going through there. So I think that's going to make a neat theme to it where people are going to be able to recognize, oh, this is where the footwork is. Here's where the attack series is, right? Oh, this is how I enter on the third. I think it's really going to crystallize a lot of people's opinions and give them a better viewpoint.
Okay. How about you, Maynard? What's your personal goal and goal overall?
Overall, so I've been since 2010. I've been kind of incubating, kind of like on my own. I was. Like I said, I haven't trained with anybody in Pikiti Tertia since 2008, maybe 2010. I haven't really trained with anybody at all. I kind of isolated myself for that long. And that was because I'm working on my understanding of Pikiti Tertia, and I wanted to do it without outside influence whatsoever. So I wanted to do it on my own and really figure it out. So my goal is to really start to share more, because it doesn't do me any good to keep all this knowledge for myself. And I'm kind of like becoming a cranky old man, getting all cranky, looking at Pikiti Tertia online and going like, oh, that's wrong, oh, that's wrong. And so I'm like, oh, why don't you just tell them? Why don't you just keep? Well, I was telling Roberto, because I just keep complaining. It's like, but I'm not helping anybody. Right? And so I'm just becoming this like old complaining guy who's just like telling everybody they're wrong, but you're not showing anything to anybody because you're just hiding in your little cocoon or whatever, right? So I actually want to start sharing more information, and if people are open to seeing things in a different light, I understand that they've invested a lot of time in doing one way, and they've learned from some famous people. But take a look at it this way, and I want to be able to share some insights that I've discovered doing this by myself, with my students, of course, and then really kind of hopefully I'm hoping that like Pikiti Tertia can really move forward to the future, because Aaron and I were talking about that. We don't want Pikiti Tertia to become like Aikido, Aikikai, or any of these other Chinese martial arts systems where they can dance and they can do their forms really well, but they can't fight worth a damn. right? So I think I have a lot of fighting experience. I fought MMA, I fought boxing, I fought wrestling, I fought stick fighting, I fought HEMA. I have a lot of fighting experience, and I think all those things come together. And I think I really want to just share what I've figured out, and I want to
Mm.
share as much as I can to the community, to pediatrician, to FMA in general, because I think it's just time. It's time to be open and to like I don't care anymore. I'm getting too old to do this kind of stuff, and it doesn't do anybody any good to hide it. And I don't want to be one of those old cranky crazy guys that take their knowledge to their graves, because I've had those teachers. Okay, GT is one of those. All right, my teacher Don was one of those. My teacher Tim is one of those. He's like, I don't care. It's like, oh, I'll die with it. Like, but what happens when you die and nobody knows what it is? He's like, it doesn't matter because somebody will figure it out like 100 years from now, whatever.
Mm.
They don't care, and they just Master Remrev, the great Silat master that I knew, that he wouldn't teach anybody. He wouldn't even teach Guru Dan. He hated teaching people, but Master Remrev was so good. He was so good. He wouldn't teach Guru Dan, right? And but he died, and then he took all his art with him. It's all gone. Right? That guy, that old man was a treasure. I mean, if you ever saw, he's about my size, and and, and at that age, he can outmaneuver. He can outmaneuver me when I was at my best. But all that stuff died with him. And I'm in touch with some of his old students who couldn't figure out what he did. They're just lost. So the art is lost, right? In my old Kenjutsu school, right? The Yanagiri Kenjutsu, that one's gone. It's dead, right? So the old man, my teacher Don, he took the art with him also. It's also gone. So I don't want that to happen. So if I have like a set of knowledge that I've been gathering, that for me, my goal is to kind of like share it first in this Tribe symposium, and really it's like, that's why I was telling Aaron, I was like, oh, if you're gonna do an event, we should make it a Tribe about the Tribe, because everybody's so confused about what it is.
Yeah, it's a good choice. Sounds like it.
So yeah, so that's my goal. It's like I just want to be like more open and share. And I was telling another person, like, I don't mind. I'll tell you all what I know, right? Go ahead and learn it. I said, go ahead and learn it, and then try to beat me with it, because me telling other people how to do what I do, it just forces me to keep moving forward and figuring out new ways, right? I don't want to sit on my butt and say like, well, I can do the circle and nobody can stop me. No, I can stop there and I can beat, most people who would come in, but like that's pointless. I'm just like, no, I'm not going to improve, right? But if I tell people, I go, look, this is how I'm doing it, and then they're like, oh, now I know there's like a bunch of people who knows how to do this stuff now, right? And then I go, now I'm in trouble. Now I got to figure out other ways to counter that stuff that I taught, right? So I think that's like, in jiu-jitsu, like, I teach you how I do my choke. I'll teach you how to do my submission techniques and my setups, because now when I try to do it to you, like, hey, you're gonna counter it because you know what I'm gonna do. So now it forces me to get better. It forces me to figure out how you're gonna counter me, and then I get to see you counter me. Then I figure out more ways to attack. So I think, yeah, by giving it away, you get more. So I just want to give it. I just want to give things away.
All right, all right.
Coming with your truth, pretty much. I mean, I'm glad to be able to pull him out of his shell finally.
I'll pull him out, yeah, from his cocoon. We have a public announcement from Renee. Guys, to be honest, I didn't teach Guru Dan either. We are now informed. Okay.
You're in the same level as Master Remrev now.
In case you guys had any doubt, you guys no longer need to have.
He's one of the greatest secret Silat teachers in Southern California. He's so good. He was an instructor. He was my size, 130 pounds maybe when he was young, soaking wet, and he was a hand-to-hand combat instructor to the Dutch Army.
Oh, the Dutch Army. Okay, wow.
He's Dutch. He's Indian, Indonesian, right? Dutch Indo. He was tiny. He was tiny, and he's fighting the big old Dutch guys. So imagine how good that old man was.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oof. So what? Dan here. One of you guys kind of actually was you, as far as the question that Danny Terrell had. Here, you want to take a crack? Here, why don't you each take a crack at it? I think Maynard already kind of touched upon it, but again, Danny's question was, try V cover different, stronger opponents, or one with a heavier weapon, or vice versa. You're the heavier, or you're the better opponent, and or have the heavier weapon. So that's Danny Terrell's question. Aaron, you want to take a crack at it?
Well,
How you would deal with that? Is your
Correct.
question?
Yeah.
Okay.
positioning, footwork.
I think Aaron's answering it.
Yeah, I mean, positioning, getting to the right position. You know, a smaller opponent generally has to do more footwork to get to that place where they need to be. So it's about being better at footwork than the other person, which is going to give you your entries, which is going to give you your ways to attack.
Position before attack. That
Yep.
means footwork. How are you going to beat that? Footwork. So when GT talks about, I started doing footwork when I was 6 years old. Yeah, because you have to move. It's footwork. The boxing sweet science does not work without footwork. It's the footwork that does it. It's footwork, and it's not just M patterns and all this stuff. I'm telling you, it's the understanding the relationship of time and space, right, and the person in front of you and your surroundings, right. The difficulty with a lot of like FMA sparring is that they don't limit space, right? They're all over the place. They're running around. They're all over the place, right? So if you look at every combat sports around the world, they always have a limited space because it really forces you to move. If you can just run around in the park. Hey, I was there when Eric Canals fought, what's his name? The Sayok guy, the big guy in Sayok?
Tom Kyer.
Kyer, yeah, I was there. Battle of the Titans. It was like bananas.
Like early 2000s or something.
Oh, yeah, I was there. I was like watching that sucker, and there was like, got the raw gym, they had all this gym equipment, and then Eric ran to the gym equipment and he got injured at that time. Right? And then you got the wall. You know, the first time I fought Tuhon Nick. Tuhon Nick put me in a damn wall. Then he threw a left hook to my face, and the mask flew off. Then he slammed me on the wall again, and then he headbutted me while wearing his mask. You see what I mean? Because there's like there's walls, right? It's like like you're enclosed. And back then in the park, yeah, they run around in the park. But then when we were at the raw gym, and there's like a wall here, and there's like gym equipment there, and there's like now it's an enclosed space. Now it's hard, right? So you have enclosed space.
Yeah. How about you, Lamont? Same question.
Well, to give a concrete example, like the classic answer against a heavier weapon with a lighter weapon would be Contradas. Right? I'm not going to meet force with force, right? I can't. He's going to break my weapon. If I try to four wall a baseball bat with a rattan stick, I'm going to lose, right? You can't meet force with force, right? So that's where a lot of this Contradas motion comes in, where I'm going to either follow force. You can't do that without the recognition of the attack coming, and you can't do it without proper positioning. Because if you Contrada and you're out of position, you get hit anyway, right? So that's your footwork. For footwork puts you in the position to be able to utilize a Contradas technique. It's harder because you're not, you can not move and stick a four wall on the way. That's why you teach it to beginners. That's because they don't have the understanding in the very beginning. So the first thing most people do is like put something between me and you, because if you lack, if you're always behind on time and getting hit, you need to save your butt. So you stick something in the way. As your understanding gets better, your position gets better because you have the footwork and you have that understanding of range and the attack that's coming in, then you can do things like Contradas. But that's why it gets taught later, is because it takes a while to build up that ability to be able to do that. So like, it of course is no difference than Dose Methodist. It's all the same thing, right? But you need the understanding of your footwork. That gives you your position to be able to use a Contradas, which of course, so that's just a concrete example of it, because all the tools that are in Pikiti are available in Tri-V theoretically, as long if you have it and you can make it work. Again, Tri-V is an approach to it. It's not a curriculum. It's an approach to it. The whole system is the whole system. So And if you haven't been taught contradas, you can't use contradas because you don't know what it is. And so if you lack that, you lack that, right? So you have to make sure that in your study of the system, you've gotten chunks of that. You've gotten that idea that you understand how to move out of the way, how to follow that energy. So that's just a simple, concrete answer to it, right? Without getting into real details, but that's true of the system, regardless if you're Tri-V or Dosing Methodist. So
that's, oh my God, Renee,
Was,
that's true for any
Hey, Dean.
true for any dating situation.
Okay, Dean. I was I'll give you an example of this heavy weapon versus light weapon. When I would go to Bacolod to train with GT every year, or I would go there, I would also sneak out after the training at night, and I would train with Grandmaster Joe Vasquez of Modified Tapado. And one of the most impressive demonstration that he showed me was when he held a very light rattan stick, maybe 3/4 of an inch in width, and he had me hold the coffee stick. So what they would do is they would cut coffee trees, and that's what they would use for staff, and they would dry it, right? And it hits hard. That coffee stick is gonna hit really hard. And he said, "Hit me," and I said, "What are you gonna do? You have a little teeny tiny skinny rattan stick." I said, "Hit me as hard as you want." And I went to go hit them with a number one, boom, little uno, number one, boom. I went like this, just like, and he hit that stick down with his rattan stick without cocking his arm at all. He went from here to here. My stick went from there to the ground. I have no idea what he did. So there's a way to do it, right? I have no idea what he did. He did not cock his arm. It did not move. His arm was like this, and our six went like this, and it was so hard and powerful that coffee stick was on the ground.
Wow.
And I know to this day, I'm like, he's trying to explain it to me, and I have his book, and it's like 2 coins going like this. I'm like, I was like, yeah. So there is a way, and then that's why there's a lot of these old masters that taking all this stuff with them to the grave, because it's just we don't have enough time to spend with them.
Yeah, I know that's a shame in its own right. I mean, but here, Lamont. So Tri-V versus Seguidas, Contradas, and Recontra strategies.
Yeah. Yes. Again, not using the platform, right? So not using necessarily the Seguidas or Contradas, our curriculums and methods of teaching the idea behind those. So again, Tri-V is an approach. So of course, it's in there. The question is, how much of it did you get? What's nice about Dosing Methodist is it's a very exhaustive way of studying it, right? It's the encyclopedic knowledge, right, of all these different platforms that it taught. It may or may not, depending on how it was taught, contain everything that's theoretically within the system. Hopefully it did, because GT or whoever was putting together the curriculum may or may not have gotten it down into some format for for us to capture it. But the ideas, sure, of course, all of the question is, has the person been exposed to it, or can they recreate it? Using that Tri-V approach. Again, Tri-V isn't a curriculum. It's a approach. Your curriculum, in order to be address all of those things, has to include it. But do we use the strategies? Absolutely. The question is, and there are some organizations that will pull back the Seguidas in, just so to make sure that people get some of that lesson plan. But it depends on how deep into the system you want to get. You can get to be a more than functional fighter, right? You can be a very, very good fighter off of a small subset of the material. a very small subset. So what are your goals here? Are you, I don't want to say just a fighter, because that's a marginalization of the guys who are great fighters who just have no interest in getting an entire system. They just want to be a good fighter. But theoretically, you get more access to more tools the more you know about the system. And so of course the concepts are used. Whether or not those particular instructors have all of the pieces that were captured within Doce Methodus, or they recontradas, that's up to their study of the system. But hopefully that makes sense.
I mean, I understand it, to write on Lamont, it's like you fill your Tri-V with methods, the different methods you learn. So you continue your exploration, you continue adding other pieces to it. Like, learn your Abecedario, you throw the tools into your Tri-V. I think of it almost like a Lego set, right? You buy a Lego set, you follow the directions, you learn how to use you make whatever you're supposed to make, then you take it apart, play with the tools, play with the pieces. What does every kid do? You mix your Legos together and you build whatever you want. That's kind of what your Tri-V becomes at that point. So it's filled with whatever methods and whatever platforms you have to put into it. More tools for your toolbox.
No. And actually, and also, just Aaron, back, I know because we answered Daniel's question there, we're getting back to the event there. But just for folks that are watching, can you give us just sort of the generic information? The days, when it's starting, for pricing, how they get a hold of you or whoever?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be February 18th and 19th here in Las Vegas. And the event's going to go from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. both days. And there'll be 6 of us teaching. And we've got it down to about an hour and a half to 2 hour sessions a piece. We're going to break up the groups. So that way everyone gets exposure to everyone. And also so us instructors can kind of get some lessons from everyone else. Cost of the event is going to be $175 for both days. And the purpose is really not to make money at all. It's really to cover flight expenses of everyone who's coming into Las Vegas, essentially. And hopefully we can achieve that and make everyone happy and come away with some good tools and ideas to make them better practitioners.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys are just looking just to cover it. That's, yeah. Wow. And 9 to 5, man, that's going to be those are jam-packed days with information.
Lots of
information. And if you're gonna attend my session, bring gear.
Yeah, you gotta have gloves and forearm protection for mine.
I'm telling you right now. That's why I was telling Aaron. I'm kind of like, oh no, they might not. No, it's about fighting. You better bring some gloves at least and some forearm protector, because we're gonna be hitting from the get-go. I go, you want to learn how to fight right away? I'll show you how to fight right away. But we need gear. We're not gonna spar and kill each other. But I need people to bring gear because I want to hit people. Because the point is how to hit and not get hit. I'm gonna show you how to hit people right away. So yeah, bro, yeah. If you're gonna attend, bring gear. And if you're listening to this, and more than likely you're committed enough to PKD Tertia to have at least gloves and forearm protectors, right? Like better if you have elbow protectors, right? But it's really hard to really understand range without actually hitting somebody. Yeah. You got to reach them. You got to hit them, right?
Honestly, it surprises me kind of in the modern era when like lacrosse gloves are easily available for like $25, how much they're not used in a class where it's like, oh, I'm going to tap your stick. It's like, no, hit it in the hand. Like, get that appropriate range that you're used to it, and it's like that you can actually use the protective gear for our benefit in learning. That it's like
exactly
our guys will spend half our class in masks and a glove because I want you to be the mask gives you an extra 1.5 inches that you got to maneuver your head, or if they just switch your mask, okay, you're out on that one. But there's someone swinging at your head. Like it doesn't have to be hard, but that's you're learning real range instead of someone meatballing a stick at you. They're like, no, I feel safe that I can actually aim at your head. And it shocks me how much of it isn't used in the modern day because the gear is easily available. So I think we're often too caught up with this, the way they used to do it when they didn't have the protective gear. Well, now we have it. Let's
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just take advantage of it and use it. I mean, I put my students, same thing. I mean, right. And the stuff goes on. I mean, like, yeah, no, don't hit the damn stick. I mean, put the damn glove on. You know what I mean? I mean, 100%. My way to truly know. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Right. Enough said. All right, guys. If you had the time, this has been excellent, by the way. All right, we're going to start with Aaron. If you had the time, the energy and all that, what other FMA system would you train in?
Oh my gosh, other FMA system.
Yeah, if you had the time and the desire, what would it be?
Well, I've had some exposure to some of the Negro systems, and I don't know, I had a really good time with Grandmaster Felix Ganabo of the Oído de Cabarata system, and I like the use of his tools, his little whipping tools and things like that. I enjoy that, but to be honest, it's not going to be really a system. It's going to be about having a good instructor more than anything else, someone who can actually teach.
Okay, Lamont, same question.
So I really like what the Illustrisimo guys that do. Like I'll try to play like a really crappy version of their game with partially to expose my guys to just what that looks like. But just sort of getting that feel of the measure and ranging and just it's a very different game than we typically do in Pikiti. So it's a different kind of footwork. It's it's a different kind of positioning. It's because it's a different game to it. It provides a very nice counterpoint to what I think I do in Pikiti.
I think you're absolutely right on that. Yeah, as far as like the compare and contrast and playing with each other like that, I think it's a good pairing. Maynard, same question.
I would train integrated schema with Mark Wiley.
Really? Oh yeah. Okay. All right.
That's the only one I want to do. I would.
Yeah.
I am very interested in actually contacting him and doing that because
I have his first modules. He was very kind to gift them to me after interviewing him, and it's mostly KI, but there's definitely you see some of the Kabbalahs, some of the other stuff in there. But yeah, it's pretty interesting actually.
I think he's brilliant. The interview that you did with him, I got so many pearls of wisdom from that interview. I think some of the videos I watch him do, I think he's one of the I got unsung masters. I mean, he's not really like as popular as he should be. I think he's brilliant. I just think
it's just he got a lot of flack. I mean, just the books and
I mean he also does Chinese martial arts, right? But that's the thing. I would train with him. I wouldn't go anywhere else. I would actually seek him out. Then I've been actually interested in doing that. So it would be Mark Wiley for sure. Integrated.
Yeah, you should contact him. He's really easy to get a hold of on Messenger. Yeah. But KI will integrate with any system. Yeah, right. Absolutely, Maestro Ray. I feel the same. I am an unseen master.
I just don't want. The thing is, I don't want to train with another Filipino. Really. I don't.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah.
It's just because it's hard for them to translate what they really mean. I like Mark Wiley because he has a very clear way of translating things into something easily to understand, especially for me. And then that's always the misunderstanding with a lot of this Pikiti stuff is the difficulty of translating what those native terms really mean, right? And to this day, I think we misunderstood a bunch of other stuff in Pikiti Tertia, and that's why Aaron and I are always going back and forth as to what things mean. So every time we have a conversation, it's about what things mean and what they actually mean and what we think they mean. So we think they mean this, but we actually didn't, stand it properly. So I mean the Filipino masters are great, but they're not best at translating things properly. So it's you lose a lot from the translation. So I think somebody like Mark Wiley, who's done a lot of work over there and seen a lot. I think he can do a
Jesus,
better
I
job at
mean, back in the day
translating
when
his
they're all
actual
still
knowledge.
alive, I mean, the guys that he covered when they're all, you know what I mean? It's amazing, you know.
Yep.
All right, so we got closing thoughts. Aaron, closing thoughts for audience or the upcoming event.
Well, yeah. Come over to Las Vegas. Everyone loves to come here. Have a great experience with 6 instructors in one place. That's not something that happens very, very often. Give people a good exposure to everything. And this is definitely just the first one. This is definitely not the last one. The more exposure we have, the more events we can have here and kind of keep this concept, keep this idea rolling to help everybody out, because everybody ultimately just wants to get better at what they do. And we're here to help facilitate that.
Yeah, awesome. Lamont, same.
I'd also like to say that even if you're not a Pikiti person, I don't think you necessarily have to do Pikiti. Like you should, if you're not a Pikiti FMA person, even this is clearly largely aimed at Pikiti given all of our backgrounds, but I don't think it's restricted. Like you shouldn't feel like, oh no, I can't go to this. This is only for Pikiti people. I think just the lesson plan I think will be valuable to, and most other FMA students who are interested in just seeing what maybe Pikiti people do. So like I said, even though it's clearly a Pikiti event, it's not just a Pikiti event. So
That's good. All right, that's good for folks to know. Okay, yeah. Maynard, same question.
Yeah, I think it's a unique perspective to have 6 different instructors to come in, and you're getting this
I think
body
it's
of knowledge,
fantastic, man.
right? So it's this body of knowledge from 6 different instructors
I
who
know. That's
have been,
man.
for $175, you are there with
That's
6
a
instructors
bargain.
who had all this experience. Lamont, Aaron spent so much time in
Yeah.
Lamont and fighting Dog Brothers, fighting those team. And he so much fighting experience, and you got Jenna and Angola and Jeanette. It's just the perspective to understand, the opportunity to understand and to have a better, really a better sense of what private formula is. And then if you're an instructor, then you actually can say what it is now. Like, yeah, this is what we're doing. We're hopefully defining this for the next group of students who want to learn this, instead of just the private being such a mystery this whole time, right? So I think it's a good opportunity for everybody to learn. And like Lamont said, you don't have to be Pikiti. You can see how Pikiti works, and you can see how the system of it works, and then like I said, and then hopefully this can be springboarded to the next one, and then the next one, and hopefully maybe next time we might do the 12 métodos. Who knows?
Yeah. If you guys get pretty good turnout for this, I mean, this could lead into obviously future where you guys are focusing on just one thing or not. I think it's fantastic. I just I would love to see KI. But then, it's so you have to actually get people from the different clans together. And, and that's, that I think might, unfortunately would be difficult, but which is a shame, but I just think it's absolutely great what you guys are doing. I'll come from coming together and doing this. I think it's a real service to the Bikini community,
I think the opportunity to just bring so this is what GT was telling me a long time ago, and this is kind of like a story, right? And I asked him, but so GT, who's going to get it? I go, who's really going to get this? And he said, the person who can bring everybody together will get it. And then I said, but GT, everybody wants to keep their own secrets to themselves. Well, then he said, that's a problem. You have to have people who are open enough to be able to share, and secure enough to be able to share. And then the problem that we have is like everybody's trying to keep like a little secret here and there, and that's a very Filipino thing, because we think we have an advantage. We gotta keep our advantage. No, the best advantage is to give everything away. It's like you just give it away. So
Yeah.
I think hopefully we get together. I think we start talking about terminology, really defining things and not being so confused about what things mean and what that person said and that other. No, let's come together. And then now we have a common language, right? Because really, if you ever read any Anders Ericsson material about mastery, right? How do people develop mastery? One of the first requirements of that is to have a common language. And we want to bring this together where we're speaking the same thing, right? So that we can discuss this, and I know what you're talking about, and I can either critique you or comment against it, or logically reason it out because I know what you're talking about, right? So I think that's the benefit of this, and I really want people to show up and just like, hey, we're gonna show these things. We're not gonna hold anything back because these guys are not holding anything back. We're just gonna because for the good of Pikiti Tertia, because like me and Aaron and Lamont, we don't want it to become just these guys. We're doing all these forms but cannot fight. Like you see all these old Tai Chi masters going to fight MMA and they get knocked out within 10 seconds. We don't want to do that. So I think by sharing the knowledge with everybody else and then coming together, right? Coming together, like the instructors coming together and say, hey, look, let's just share information, right? You don't have to be insecure about it. You don't have to hide stuff. Let's just share information. This is what this is what I know. It's like I was telling Aaron also a while back. It's like chess grandmasters, right? Real grandmasters of chess, right? They play these games and they record them, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They put them in books. You can go read the grandmasters play.
Oh my God, you go on I go on YouTube and see them.
Yes,
just
you can watch all of them, but they'll still kick your butt.
Yeah. I know, that's what I mean. I go right
you can study their moves. You can study their. It's like here's a chess master, like a opening game, middle game, end game, and it doesn't matter. They'll still kick your butt, right? But all their moves are there, right? Why can't we make Pikiti that way? Why can't we make martial arts that way? All the moves are there. Everybody knows the moves, right? Boxing, everything's there. So that's what I want. I mean, that's just me. I mean, I know Aaron feels the same way, and Lamont feels the same way.
I share the same sentiment. Yeah, I think it's gonna happen. It's coming more and more. I think more and more people are starting to feel that way in the community. About that, and I think that's just gonna grow. To be honest, over time, I'm not missing any questions or comment. Renee, I found the police in Las Vegas surprisingly gentle.
Good to know.
That's great to hear, Renee. Folks could find that useful. But well, folks, I mean, this has been great. I really appreciate you guys coming on. I thought this was fantastic. I hope your guys' event goes really well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for allowing us on here, Dean, to share what we're going to be doing.
Oh yeah, no, it was funny. I thought it was such a great thing when Lamont first brought it up to me. I'm like, yeah, we definitely got to do this. I thought it was just, yeah. So anytime you guys have something like this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to get you on, and obviously feel free to put an FMA discussion. You know what I mean? Anything you want to promote or advertise. You know what I mean? Definitely put it in there.
I'm saying, Dean, that Aaron is in the best, most perfect place to do all this kind of stuff because it's Vegas. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Vegas? Right? You train in the morning, you got have fun at night. It's Vegas. Yeah. Like, you cannot lose.
And then come in.
Sometimes. Yeah, the other half, man. I tell her go to Vegas, and that's like it's not happening. It's just.
You want to go to Vegas? Come on, Dean. You want to go? Come on. It's Vegas.
I definitely want to go, man. But I'm not coming alone.
I think there'll be more events for sure. Aaron's planning something more than this. Yeah. So, as I said, Aaron's a perfect man. I call Aaron the Johnny Appleseed of Pikiti.
Johnny Appleseed.
I mean,
yeah.
He is. He is the Johnny Appleseed of Pikiti. He develops really good groups wherever he goes.
No, definitely. And that also, whether you guys are doing something together or individually speaking, if you got something that you want to come on and share about, or just let me know, or put in a group, by all means, Definitely.
Good to go.
But, all right. Well, hey, appreciate you guys coming on, and
thank you.
Yeah, Danny Trail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It won't be just me, Danny. There will be a third wheel. But and Lamont, I gotta be in touch with you about I'm hoping Sunday. If that's,
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll send you a message. But all right, guys. Hey, best of luck to you. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks again. It was a great conversation. Great talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. You guys take care.
All right.
All right, that wraps up episode 358. That was good. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. I definitely learned more about Tri-V just listening to those guys talk, and all that. So yeah, hopefully that went for the same for you guys. And of course, it was very entertaining watching Renee's comments. Who is next? So Monday night, Maya Paulunia, he's doing another Immersion Labs. It's coming, I think it's in March. Really pretty special. The whole theme is going to be on the Spanish influence. And he's got some big folks coming out there. And so he's coming on Monday to talk about that. And I'm going to believe it's going to be 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken. He's got to send me the flyer, but you'll see it posted in the discussion. But yeah, some really big, like the whole how the Spanish influence, but like some arts from Colombia. One of my favorite arts, Scribma Criolla, Argentina. I think one from Cuba that's kind of gotten lost, but really the whole Spanish influence on that. Guy from Spain, but some really just eclectic arts that he's all going to have in one place. Again, the event is in March, and it's again under his Immersion Labs thing. So it's pretty impressive what he's got cooking. So yeah, that's gonna be Monday. Check it out if you got an interest. I think he's allowing, perhaps 25 guests or something like that. I think there's 10 or so folks coming in, so it's pretty impressive. But at any rate, I will see you guys hopefully then. If not, enjoy the rest of your weekend.